Welcome,
Good morning.
everyone.
Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at.
That's right. Speaking of where we're at, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from today. Drop in the chat. Where are you tuning in from today? Where are you joining us from? Always fun to see where everyone's coming from. You usually have coast to coast, sometimes international. So much fun. Oh, nice. Already see some fellow Texans in the house. My name is Julie Hinshaw. I'm the Director of Elementary Education here at CharacterStrong. Lots of years in the classroom. After that was a district coordinator for social and emotional learning at a school district in Texas. Came to CharacterStrong 2.5 years ago. Joined by my friend Brian.
My name is Brian Whitley. I am also a former educator like Julie. I was a school counselor and an assistant principal and principal for a total of about 14 years. Joined CharacterStrong within this last year. It's been fantastic, and the work that we're doing. I'm located in upstate New York. I haven't seen any New Yorks there, but a lot of adjacent states to me. So we're getting some late summer weather in the early fall, which is great.
He says it's great. If you live in Texas, you don't think it's great. we're still in the triple digits.
You're pulling for the cooler weather.
Yeah, we're ready for it. Wow, Michigan, Elk River, Minnesota, I think that is. Welcome. Oh my goodness, such a great, widely representative group of educators. We are so glad you're here. As you're coming in, we will be using the chat for questions and comments. We'd like to do lots of interaction with you as we spend some time together. So our first opportunity to really engage in the chat. This is a question from our gym, our CharacterStrong gym activities, which is, these are entry tasks. So ideas that you can bring into your classroom as a way to start the day with your students. We love using these with staff as well. This one is called Just One. So in the chat, what is one dream that you wish would come true? One dream you wish would come true. If you could be the fairy godmother, if you had a fairy godmother, what would be your one wish? Could be related to anything: work, family, science, anything.
Some really good ones in there. I'm just going to throw out my answer, Julie. I'll give you some fun. Actually, my kids, I have two sons who are 7 and 8. They talk constantly about wanting to invent teleportation. And it's brilliant, right? I've said, listen, you guys are going to be very wealthy if you do that for starters, but it's going to change humanity if you have something like that. So that'd be my wish. I think it would just be easier. I love to travel. And, you know, as everyone knows, the hassle of travel is getting on the plane, getting off the plane. If you could just appear there, amazing stuff, right? There's some great stuff in the chat though on people living in peace, and I'm a little more shallow than some folks here, but I think these are some great answers. Kindness for everyone's been a pretty good theme throughout that I see popping up there. How about you, Julie?
Yeah, so beautiful. Well, I'm gonna make sure you don't feel alone in feeling shallow. Someone put on their lakefront property in Lake Superior, and I was like, oh yes. I mean, I've never been to Lake Superior, but waterfront property, really of any kind. I'm not picky. It could be a lake, ocean, stream, really not picky. But waterfront property was really like, that's a dream for sure. I would love that. Curing the terminal illnesses, that would be incredible. Wish for 100 more wishes. Always, there's always some of those, right? It's a good one.
I saw a few folks mentioning Powerball, which could be encompassing a lot of these wishes. You could buy them.
So great. All right. Well, as we modeled just one even silly way to engage with people in the room, engaging with your staff, lots of different ways that we help boost morale. But let's talk about what we're doing today. Just so you know, a couple of nuts and bolts here. This webinar is recorded, and you'll be in listen-only mode, but we encourage you to use the chat. Links and resources will be shared in the chat, so tune in. They'll be dropping lots of great resources for you, and we'll be using the chat, as we've said, to engage today.
Yeah, and then after the webinar, just so you know, this is a lot of times there are questions people are asking. We are going to be sending out the slides. So you'll get a copy of all of that in PDF format. We're also going to send the recording. So for folks who weren't able to join, or if you want to rewatch to see certain things, you're going to get that recording for the webinar. And you can always reach out to us, to our support team, and we're happy to help with anything that arises, whether it's a question about the webinar or if it's just something specific to your CS implementation or otherwise. All right, so in the chat, let's start if we could. I know everyone just contributed on the wish list, but if you could share one way you felt appreciated as an educator, it's really going to be thematic to what we're talking about today. We'd just love to hear about experiences folks have had, and what's really worked in terms of making them feel good.
Such a great question. I think I think back on my years in the classroom, and I think sometimes just feeling seen and heard in a moment, and to having my administrator take the time to pop in and really ask how I'm doing and remember something from a previous conversation, bringing around that follow-up on checking in on whatever it may be. I think those are the times that really stand out to me. It's a time where I just really felt known in that space. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, I thought about some big things like, like tenure, for example, being recognized officially. And that stuff's wonderful, right? But I love, and I'm with you on a number of things I see popping up in the chat, right? Just the times when someone, be it a superintendent or be it a principal, has just offered some positive praise, and noticed the things that I'm doing well. I think so often, we see people only focus on when there's things that need improvement, right? And that's the times that they reach out. And so to really be recognized for when things are going well and what you're doing well, those have been some pretty powerful moments for me.
So great, really just pure gold in the chat right now. So many great ideas, and just real connections to feeling appreciated and the power of that. And the vast majority of the things that I'm seeing come through aren't anything that takes a lot of time or effort or money, or very basic human acknowledgement, which is so important.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic segue. You probably meant to do it, but if you didn't, that was excellent, Julie. So what we're going to talk about today, as you know, is 10 ways to appreciate staff and boost morale. And I think what Julie just said is spot on, and we can see that reflected in the what's being shared in the chat, right? These don't have to be incredibly complicated or effortful things that you're doing, but ways that you can, as leaders, help to boost that morale, and a lot of them are just little things. And so what we're going to be really focusing on today is acknowledging that we hear all the time from educators, and we've experienced it ourselves, obviously, that kids are struggling with behavior, engagement, right? That stuff, it's more significant post-pandemic, right? And that leads to staff burnout and people just feeling like they're overwhelmed or exhausted, and so on. So what we want to do, and everything that we're going to share with you today is available as part of the CharacterStrong gym, in an area we call the administrator character dares. And so we're going to share 10 of our favorites. There are ways, again, sort of, effort minimal ways that you can help to do that, to boost that morale and to really make a positive difference in the lives of the people you work with. So the first one that I picked out was the why reminder. So this is really taking the time to share your why. So why are you in education? Why do we do what we do, right? What makes you tick? What gets you up in the morning, when you have our day the next day? Sharing that out with your staff and maybe even with your students as well, right? I mean, ideally at a staff meeting, you do something like that. And this can be, a relatively quick kind of thing where you say, hey, what I want to share is why I get up in the morning, right? I really feel like it's meaningful to me to see that I've helped kids. And, sometimes you share a specific story. There was a student who was really struggling at home, and I was able to make a breakthrough with them and really get them engaged in school because of the time I spent there. And that has given me my why, right? It can be something as simple as that. It can be when I was in a leadership role at a previous organization, we did a book study. You guys have probably seen this. I just brought up the Find Your Why, Simon Sinek. And we actually read the book and created why statements for each individual team member, as well as a why statement for our overall team and organization, to really kind of dive into what makes us tick. Because when you're in those hard moments, knowing that why, it can be really helpful in getting you through that. Julie, anything to add there?
Actually, yes, I thought of a story, and I like wanted to share it, and I didn't clear it with you ahead of time, so I hope it's okay if I jump in on your chosen dare here. But my story related to this really is about my son, and he came home from school one year. It was ninth grade. He came home from ninth grade toward the beginning of the year, probably around this time of year, and he comes in. He says, well, today was weird. My English teacher just said something so strange. I said, well, what did she say? She said that this is her dream job, that talking about literature and hanging out with ninth graders is her dream job. And I said, yeah, I think she really likes her job. Why is that so weird to you? And he said, and I've never forgotten this, he said, I've never heard a teacher say they like their job before. And that just really hit me. And I was teaching eighth grade English at the time. I really did some reflection. I shared with my students why I teach and how much I love it. I loved teaching. Did I ever explicitly say it? And I don't think I had. And it was something that I felt was really important. And we think about the power of sharing that with your students. And I'll tell you what, my son ended up, he was an engineering major. He just graduated with his engineering degree. Woohoo. If you know anything about people with engineering minds, stereotypically, they tend to not like English. He hates English, absolutely hated his English classes. But if you were to ask him, who's your favorite teacher you've ever had? He will say, Mrs. Harper, ninth grade English, every time. It wasn't the content, it was the person. It was the way that she shared with them her purpose and her why. And I just thought, what if every kid through their whole career of education, K-12, what if every kid had multiple teachers that said, here's why I teach. Here's how much I love it. Here's what I love about it. Think of the power that would just put out into the world. And I think the same when we think about administrators to staff. If we can model that as administrators, sharing your why, that we know that purpose fuels perseverance. It's from Simon Sinek as well. So, yeah.
Such a great story, Julie. Thanks for sharing that. And I think it's, you're right, you realize how little many of us actually share out loud, what we're happy about and why we do it, right? I mean, you know it, perhaps, and maybe you don't, but you don't always take the time to share it. I think it can be really powerful for both the adults in the building, and even, putting it into, like it says it on the slide there, putting in writing, and sharing it out there for folks to see and share, maybe even challenging your students to do the same. What's their why? Is why school's important to them and what they, what they're interested in and why they're focusing on it. So great stuff.
Good. And yeah, congratulations, Jana. Her son is graduating with an engineering degree in December. So fun to see all the connections. Okay, this is one that I picked out. It is called Staff Chips. And the idea here is, how can we find a system that we can put in place to make sure that we connect with every staff member on our campus? Just a quick check-in. And it's really easy. Like we say all the time, relationships don't happen by accident. And one of the things I think goes along with that is the thought, what if we just let relationships happen by accident? If we just let them happen by accident, we're going to have relationships with who? The people who are most like us, people who are easy to have relationships with, people who are likable, who speak up. Those are going to be the relationships we have. But if we don't have a system of intentionality to make sure we connect with every staff member, sometimes it's easy to just connect with the easy people to connect with. So this is a way to bring some intentionality to the way we connect with staff members. So you buy a set of chips, like poker chips, really inexpensive, and you put a staff member's name on each one of them, drop them in a basket or a fishbowl or something, and you just grab 2 or 3 or 5 every day and put them in your pocket and just make a point to stop in and check on those teachers, those staff members that week or that day. So that way, and you could come back and put them in another bin, but that way, you've gotten through the whole staff, and then you can start over again if you want to. But just a really, really simple way to keep track and be really intentional about building relationships with your entire staff. I was sharing this one time at a training, and I wasn't real specific about chips. I just kind of said chips. And so they had it in their head that I meant like chips, like Lay's and Fritos. And I corrected them. I was like, oh no, like poker chips. And they were like, well, I think chips would be really fun too, like real chips. So now I always add that into the story. You could use poker chips, or you could buy the little bags of like the multi-pack of chips, put a name on your staff member. I'm sure, put a staff member's name on each bag. I'm sure they would love a bag of Cheetos if you check in on them.
Yeah, love that story. And now I'm hungry. But this is such a great one, I think, these step chips, because to your point, it's really about being intentional with those connections. And I think you alluded to this earlier, Julie, that I think we tend to gravitate to the same people, maybe people we have things in common with, or in a similar age group, or of similar interest to us, right? Or, even from a personality perspective, people who are more extroverted, we're probably interacting with more because, they're initiating some of that. And that means usually that there's folks that we're missing. And this is a way to make sure we're not missing people and really creating those connections in an intentional way. Love it.
Good stuff. All right, this next one, songs for school. This was about music. There's a lot of research out there around music being a real morale booster, and it boosts engagement, it boosts participation and energy. So we're thinking through, what could that mean on a campus? How can we use music? Really easy, low burden way to boost morale. One idea from our list of administrator character dares is to create sort of a playlist, like a theme playlist for the year. Choose 5 songs that remind you of your staff and your students. Share that playlist with your staff. Use that list to play out different times of the year. Have those 5 songs sort of be theme songs that you use all year long. We know how music, years later can really trigger memories so vividly. So what a great chance to really build some memories by using music to help gain that connection. So that's one idea, but I have some more. So I thought we could play a little game, Brian. Other ways to up your music game. I have 3 ideas. All came from various administrators that I've worked with over the years. Which one do you want to hear about first?
Let's start with the unexpected, because I don't know what to expect.
Okay, the unexpected. So this one is simply using music to change the mood of maybe an unexpected place. So for example, if your teacher's lounge at lunch is sort of a place where there tends to be a lot of venting or maybe some negative energy, and you want a really subtle way to help boost morale, put together a little playlist, very positive thinking songs, and put a little speaker, little player in there, and have music playing during all the lunch hours and during breaks throughout the day. Teachers come in already, the mood has shifted. You're finding a really simple way to sort of gently shift the mood in the room. Unexpected could also be like playing like a fun Friday afternoon song at dismissal over the loudspeaker, where everyone has got a little extra pep in their step, or maybe a little Monday morning booster over the loudspeaker. So just finding unexpected times of the day and places on campus to use a playlist.
I love that. And Michelle shared in the chat that they're doing Feel Good Fridays, where staff and students are picking songs to play during passing periods on Fridays, which, like you said, it just changes the mood. My youngest son's a big music guy. He plays piano. I think I shared with you, Julie, that he actually had the opportunity to meet Alicia Keys, right? We were at a conference together when that happened a few months ago. And it was funny. We went out after their soccer practice to get something to eat a couple weeks ago, and they'd never seen karaoke before. And he got up and he sang "Girl on Fire" at the karaoke. The whole place was, the mood changed. Like everybody, there's like bikers sitting at the bar, and the waitresses were crowded around. They loved it. So it's just illustrative of just how impactful music can be, right?
Incredible. Well, that reminds me of one of these others on here. It's called Secret Song. And Secret Song is similar to what you shared, that the person, I can't remember the person's name in the chat that you shared. But Secret Song is you have your whole staff submit their favorite song to you and send out a Google form or whatever. And then once a week, after morning announcements over the loudspeaker or whatever it is, you play the secret song for the school, and everyone gets to submit their guess. Whose favorite song do you think this is? And the kids could get involved. You could have the staff, and really everyone on campus gets to help guess. And then at the end of the day, you come out again, you play a little snippet of the song and announce whose secret song it was. Just a really fun way to bring people together. Also very simple. And then the next one, Purposeful Playlist. This is inspired by our friend Kemi, who is a master at music. And he's got so many different playlists, but he's one of our CharacterStrong presenters. And one of the things that he's really good at is building really specific songs for different times. So here's an example. When we have a break and everyone has like a 15-minute break during our presentation and everyone's kind of off on their separate ways. And he tells them ahead of time, hey, when you hear the welcome back song, that means we're about to get started. You've got 1 minute. And so he'll play Welcome Back from Welcome Back Cotter. If anybody remembers that, you'll really give your age away if you remember the Welcome Back Cotter song. But he'll start playing it and immediately people's moods are like improved and everyone's ready to come back for the break, and it gives everyone that boost. The other thing he's really good at doing is anytime there's like work time or people are working in small groups, he's got just real, like no lyrics, but really great, smooth instrumental music that just lights up everyone's brains, get them thinking creatively. So I'm thinking about staff meetings and different times when you have people working on various things, using an instrumental playlist of some kind to bring a little extra energy to the learning is always a win. So those are my 3 extra bonus ways to use music to boost morale.
So good. Welcome back, Cotter. John Travolta kicked off on that. I may be showing my age.
You're right.
Yeah,
I've forgotten all about
sort
that.
of breakthrough. I'm not positive of the timing of it, but I think that was before like
Wow.
Saturday Night Fever.
John
And all.
Travolta, like pre-Urban Cowboy even, I bet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
that was his, that's how he was discovered. Great show.
Amazing.
Okay, so the next one that I selected is called Doorstop. And again, this is a really simple thing to do. And trust me, this is coming from someone who's not a morning person. And you could do this at the exit of school as well, right? So, but the idea behind this one is really just commit to getting to the building 30 minutes or so early each day, being the first one there, making sure that you're holding the door open for staff and students and greeting them as they walk in, right? And you think about how, Boy in the Bubble, sorry, I'm getting distracted there, Michelle. It's great reference. But yeah, no, you think about how much it changes your day to have someone there as you walk into a building and start your day. You might be tired, you might be dragging, you might not feel terribly motivated, and have someone say, hey, good morning, Mrs. Smith, welcome to the building. Let's have a great day today, right? So just something that simple can really be impactful to kind of kick things off and start everyone on the right note.
Yeah, such a great one. And so simple, just takes a little bit of extra intentional effort. All right, this next one, speaking of simple, this is just a question really. How can I help? One of the things that we say a lot at CharacterStrong is we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And this is just a reminder. If you haven't asked this question lately of your staff, give it a try. See how many times this week you can ask someone this question. How can I help? It can be as simple as popping in, hey, do you need a quick break? I can cover your class. Or, hey, can I stay and help out and serve pizza at the student council meeting? Or whatever it may be, all the extra tasks our teachers and staff members are taking on. Are there little places you could hop in and surprise someone by helping out? Could be really, really simple, but goes a long way. We saw when people were dropping in the chat at the beginning of what's one way you felt really appreciated. We saw a lot that would fall under this category, just people really feeling supported. This is an easy one. Again, just a reminder of what's really important on our campus and that servant leadership that we also believe so strongly in.
Yeah, this is a great one, Julie. And I can tell you, when I was principal, this was something that I wish I did more of, but I know when I did it, you felt that people really appreciated it, right? Your day's busy. It's crazy. You're trying to get through and you're never quite caught up. And so it doesn't feel like you have time to do these things sometimes, but you make time and it pays dividends, to have someone feel like, hey, they're willing to roll up their sleeves and get in the weeds with us where needed. People really appreciate that. It goes a long way.
Yeah, I'm having like flashback memories of like setting up for our Avid parent night, and I'm there looking at the entire cafeteria of chairs I've got to set up, and here comes my principal down the hall, and she starts grabbing chairs and helping me set up. I had no idea she was going to do that. Those little things really make a huge difference as far as boosting morale. Yeah, good stuff. All right, this one, I do, we do, you do. We're gonna have some fun with this one. I do, you do, we do. Lots of different, we're good a little play on words here. The idea here is we send the message about what we value by the way that we schedule our time. If we say, kind of like the saying, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. I think of the same thing here with, look at your calendar and I'll show you what you value. So think about the way that you kick off staff meetings or PLCs. Anytime you've got your whole campus or a small group of your campus together, do you kick it off with the relationship building activity? Do you send the message, the number one priority for my staff is connection? First and foremost, we have to connect. If we protect a little bit of time to do that at the beginning of every single meeting that we have, we're sending that message loud and clear. Our calendar is going to reflect that particular value, which I just love. So one way to do that, if you are a Purposeful People or CharacterStrong curriculum user, you know that our curriculum is full of connection games, relational activities that are used through for students, but also can be used for staff. So we have a few to play with you today, and actually got a surprise for you. We are dropping a little freebie of some of these games that you can play with your staff as well. So we're going to do a couple of these. This one's called Brainstorm Lightning. It's from Purposeful People. And the way it works is we'll choose a number, 1 or 2, and then you're going to have a prompt. And you're going to brainstorm as many things as you can think of in 1 minute that are connected to the category on the screen. So kind of like categories where you try to think of as many things as you can. We'll just drop several in the chat and just kind of get it going. Since we're remote, this one's a little bit different for us, but let's click in. There we go. Okay, Candy. Waterfall it out in the chat. How many types of candy can you name? We won't use the timer because we're doing the chat. We're not all together, but it is fun to do in a classroom you have or a staff room. You can have people team up and keep count of how many they can come up with in 1 minute. And then you have them raise their hand. How many did you find? How many did you find? It's just a really fun little brain booster. We got some good ones coming in the chat.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, Brian?
Personally, I mean, it's funny. I haven't thought of this candy bar in a while, but someone put whatchamacallit on there, and I love whatchamacallits. I'm typically a Reese's guy. Like that's sort of my go-to. Like when I don't love candy to begin with. Probably sacrilege to many, but when it's Halloween, the Reese's are what I typically go for. But love that. Yeah. I also saw Charleston Chew in there, which is not one I've thought about in years. Also.
That's one of the things I love about this game in the chat is you start seeing things that you've never, either you've never heard of or you haven't seen in ages. So much fun. Nerd clusters. Y'all are getting really specific. Okay, good stuff. All right, the next one. Whoops. I lost my clicker.
Tamales.
There we go. Jobs. Jobs aren't as fun. Let's go to the next game. Unless y'all really want to do jobs. We could do, they're already dropping them in. Teacher, counselor, nurse. Yeah, so fun. But such a great elementary level game too. See kids like brainstorming all different jobs that they can think of. Really fun for kids that are starting to explore career opportunities and learning about them. Lots of fun. Okay, the next game is from our high school Connect games. And there are 2 that you will get in your freebie that we're dropping, but we're going to do one called Four Corners. Okay, for this one, we choose. All of our games have a lot of student voice and choice. So they get to choose a number 1 through 6. And we see 4 images. So you're going to choose, there's a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Which one best reflects your mood today? It could also be, you could change it up, say which one reflects your personality, or which one reflects, how you feel about this, and drop different things in. So lots of flexibility for how you could use this. But let's do your mood today. How are you feeling? 1, 2, 3, or 4? How are you feeling, Brian?
I think I'm going to go 1 on this. I'm feeling pretty good today. And to me, that dog in number 1 says, hey, feeling like I've got a good energy level and sort of ready to tackle whatever's there. Number 2 makes me laugh. And I have felt that way, but not today, fortunately.
Yeah, I see a lot of 3s in the chat too. Yeah. Tuesdays sometimes feel like a Monday. So great. I'm with you on the 1. I mean, that dog is ready to go. So cute.
What's dog number 4 saying to you, Julie?
I think number 4 is a little concerned.
Yeah, maybe a little nervous that somebody's watching.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Are you seeing me steal this treat off the table? Yeah. What you talking about, Willis? That's what I was thinking, Michelle. Oh, that's so great. Are you kidding me?
Another early 80s sitcom.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. We're bringing forward all the oldies. Good oldies, but goodies. All right, here's our last one. Which one reflects your personality? Change it up a little bit. Which one reflects your personality, right? In this moment or in this time of your life? You can interpret these however you want.
I'm going to go 2 on this one. Just because that one looks the most familiar to me, right? I mean, I'm a big Starbucks fan, and getting nothing like a nice hot cup of coffee to give me that midday jolt or morning jolt.
Yeah.
Actually, I wish I'm gonna have a sip of coffee.
Yeah, it's a good one. I really want to pick number 3. I want to be that like outdoorsy, I love camping girl, but unfortunately, I'm just not. I like the idea of it. I just don't like it in reality. There's too many bugs and itchy things. So yeah, I probably lean more toward 1. It looks a little more cozy, although I'm not a tea drinker. I am a coffee drinker. But actually this morning I had my coffee in a yellow mug. So that one I immediately was like, oh, that's me. But I'm not going to lie. There have been many times that I am a number 4.
Lenita said, I'm raising teens 4. That's
fair.
I don't have teens yet, but I can relate to doing my best.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, bring us to the next one, Brian.
Yeah. So one of the things I just wanted to observe just about what you just wrapped up there, Julie, is it's such great stuff. I mean, and sometimes these things, doing these sort of icebreaker type activities can feel like, we just don't have time to fit this in, right? But it's so critical in building. And you think about, Julie, you said it earlier, especially with younger kids, right? Like getting the brainstorm jobs and candy, that's going to get them present in the moment and energy levels up and so on. And, if anyone's been to one of our school cultural trainings, we talk a lot about our SERVE model. And in the SERVE model, it stands for start, engage, respond, value, and exit. And these are really what START's all about, right? How do we have a warm welcome to a class, to a professional development session? How do we create a sense of belonging and a feeling of engagement right off the bat? So I think that's super powerful stuff. And Julie did a fantastic job of illustrating some of the examples of how that can be done. So thanks for that. Kindness cup. Okay, another really straightforward and simple idea. But what I love about this one is that, we've talked a lot about how as a leader, you can make people feel appreciated, right? And I think there's one more still we're going to talk about that's in that vein. This is a way to really have peers recognize one another, which I think is fantastic. To be able to hear it from different sources. So the idea here, And actually in the gym, someone had mentioned earlier caffeine energy drinks, I think, as their wish. And it relates to this is actually called the caffeine kindness cup in the character dare. But the idea here is you create a trophy, a cup of some kind. And maybe you, as the administrator, pick the first one, or whoever's starting it picks the first person and says, "Hey, I'm going to recognize Julie because she went out of her way to, let's say, help a child whose parent was late, getting to school, and spend that time and stay with them so they didn't feel like they were left, and got them home safely, and so on. I'm gonna give Julie that kindness cup." In it, we'll place some kind of a gift card. The administration can purchase some gift cards. It can just be small, Starbucks, Dunkin', or something like that, and recognize them at the staff meeting. It could be weekly, it could be monthly for that, and then challenge that individual, whoever won that previous week or month, to pick someone who's going to get that next and have that pass throughout the course of the year. So really, again, just being able to recognize folks and have that be a peer recognition in addition to having leadership recognized.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this is, as a leader on the campus, we don't always see what's going on in all the day-to-day activities. We don't have eyes on everything. And so giving peers an opportunity to recognize what they see in their day-to-day, they're going to see those extra mile and extra kindness and extra effort that's happening on their campus among their teammates. They're going to see those things before administrators are often. So really great way to give a little bit of that voice.
Love it. Temperature check. This is one of my favorites, and it gets a little bit of the theme I think we talked about earlier with the staff chips as well, right? About, really being able to be intentional about how folks are doing it, not just noticing the obvious, which I think we all have a tendency to do. I certainly do, right? Somebody's head's down, they're you can tell they're feeling bad, like, but not everybody, manifests those emotions or where they're at in such an overt way. So what temperature check says is, at your next, it could be a staff meeting, it could be a professional development session, whatever you feel like you can do this on a regular basis too. And you can do this with kids. Have staff members rate how they're doing on a scale of 1 to 5. And you can do that personal life and professional life separately, overall, and so on. And you can do this anonymously via cards, have them hand in a card. And I think our next slide is going to show some resources that we have here that we offer within CharacterStrong. This is a little temperature check form, and I think it was just posted in the chat as well, the link for it. Thanks for that, Zach. So really the idea here is you guys know your colleagues and your staff well. So some places staffs are very open, have a lot of great discussion, and it might be reasonable to say, okay, everybody, show of hands, how are you feeling? Put up a 1 to a 5, 1 being, I'm struggling today, 5 being I'm in great shape, right? And people, throw it up there, and then just pay particular attention to who's on the lower end of that spectrum, right? Who needs to reach out? If that's too public and you don't want to put people in the spot to have to share things out in the open in front of others, that's where these written temperature checks can be a great way to kind of keep an eye on how are people doing. If you have folks that are struggling, then you can go out of your way to really check in with them and say, how can I help you with this? Like, what can I do to make this easier and help put you in a better place? So love that, because again, it's an intentional way to approach how people are doing, as opposed to kind of just getting through your day and hoping you notice things. So anything to add there, Julie?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about heading into the month of October and how October is notoriously challenging. It's when things really just start to hit the grind of the school year, right? Honeymoon's over. As I think you said earlier, Brian, all the things that might have been cute at the beginning of the year are starting to lose their luster. And so this probably is one of the most important times of the year that you can be intentional about checking in with your staff. I think this idea came around during COVID, and people all of a sudden were finding really creative ways, Google Forms or like all kinds of surveys and things like that, to check in on their staff and also on their students. And it's one of those things I think we need to hold on to. There's not a ton of stuff from COVID. We're like, yeah, we want to hold on to that. But I think this one is worth holding on to. It sends the message that, hey, not only do I want to know how you're doing, but I'm actually going to ask intentionally, and I'm going to follow up if there is a need. This is something we do within CharacterStrong. We fill out ours every week. You might decide that's too often or whatever it's going to work best for your staff. You should definitely do that, but it's something we do every week. Quick survey on Fridays, and we're able to check in with our team in the following days to just see what's going on or see if anyone needs support. It's part of our habit, part of the way that we help and support each other. Great stuff. All right, this one is take it outside. So it's really, sometimes just getting a change of scenery can help boost morale. So this one's about getting outside and doing something like after school or before school. So I'm going to tell you a story, one of my favorites about this. There was a principal that I worked with, and she just really wanted to connect with her campus in a little less formal way. And so she started a walking club. She called it Take a Walk. And once a week, she just said, hey, taking a walk. Who wants to join me? And she started by asking just a few of her leaders on campus if they would join to try to, model like building community and connection. And it grew and grew. And sometimes it was bad weather, and so they would play music over the loudspeaker and walk the halls of the school. But she made it a point to try to walk with a different group every time. And, if you think about it, if you take a walk with people in your personal life, you know that when you walk, you talk. We tend to open up when we're outside, when we're just walking and people aren't on their phones. There's not a lot of distractions. You're just walking and talking. It's a way to connect with people in a way that's outside the building, where we can really build community. And we think about boosting morale. There's not much more powerful than building community, building those relationships that are going to help sustain us when times get hard.
Yeah, this is great stuff, Julie. It's funny, I've actually just in the last, it's honestly, it's another like pandemic thing that I think that maybe is a good holdover, right? We started as a family going for walks. Our kids were pretty young; they were 3 and 4 at the time when it was the heart of the pandemic and everything was shut down. We were like, we need to get out of the house. You can't go anywhere; everything's closed, right? And it was some really quality family time. And I've been doing more of that from a wellness perspective of just saying, you know what, even if I'm not going to get in like a hard workout today, just getting outside and getting a 20-minute walk around the block a couple times is it's a game changer in terms of how I feel, both in terms of my joints as well as my energy level and so on. It's great stuff. And I hadn't really thought until we were prepping for this webinar, Julie, what you said about people walk together, they talk. And that is so true. And it just creates this, it's almost effortless opportunity for real conversation and connection. So good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, secondhand compliment. So this is one of the things where we talked a lot about how do we, give praise to folks and whatnot. What I love about this one, makes it a little bit different, is that this is done intentionally with an audience. And I think that achieves a couple different goals. So the idea here is to make it a point, I would say, once a week or so, this says 5 staff members' classrooms over the next month, pick one staff member that you're going to drop into their classroom and offer them a compliment in front of their students. Right. So basically come in and say, I just want to talk about, Mrs. Smith and how lucky you guys are to have Mrs. Smith as a teacher. You don't probably realize the amount of time she puts into preparing these lessons and how much she really cares about you guys. And she's here and present because she's working towards your success. And I think that's such powerful stuff because it does 2 things. One is it's sending the message to the teacher, right? That it's you're appreciated, loud and clear. And then it's also helping them to build a relationship with the students. The students are saying, okay, well, here's someone who recognizes how great my teacher is. I hadn't really thought about the fact that she does X, Y, and Z that was just highlighted, but that's pretty awesome, right? So to me, it's a nice, you're almost like killing 2 birds with 1 stone kind of a thing because you're doing it with that audience.
Absolutely love this one and just the power of that. Love that. And this is our last one. If you've been counting, this is the 10th. It just hit me, Brian. We don't have a single one in here that says anything about like set up a snack bar in the teacher's lounge, set up, bring everybody coffee or their favorite drink. And I love that all the ones we chose were just really about authenticity. Like a drink, a Sonic drink. In Texas, we have Sonic. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Sonic, but they have the best ice and the best like fountain drinks. And that was always like our treat on days like that. We'd get a Sonic drink. But when I think back to the times that I really felt appreciated and I felt like I was energized, the Sonic drink days were not what stand out. Not that they're not great. It was those authentic connections, the how can I help? You're doing a great job. Those little recognitions that I know just took a little bit of intentional effort from the leaders on campus. All right, here's your challenge. And stick around a little bit because we have some really fun things that are coming up that Brian's going to share with you. But we would love to invite you, since this has been all about challenges, we would like to challenge you to share with us what is one thing that you will take from this webinar and that you will try out on your campus this week, next week, this month. What is one thing you want to try out on your campus? Drop it in the chat. See what we got. Staff chips. Always a big hit. That's one always a hit. What I can't wait to see is how many of you are going to do the poker chips and how many of you are going to do the variety pack of Doritos. Kindness cup. Yeah, good one. Secondhand compliment. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see how it goes. I hope you'll reach out and let us know. Like if you have a great story of impact from an idea from this webinar, and you can always reach out on info@characterstrong.com. It's just our general email, or post it on Twitter and tag us. We would love to celebrate impact with you.
Yeah, and I love, just before I jump into the back to school playbooks, I love this part of the webinar is really, kind of calling to action, right? Like what are you going to do? I mean, I can't really have everybody raise their hands, but I imagine everyone most would raise their hand that they've been through a professional development where like, that was great, this was awesome. And you get back into the groove of your everyday life, right? And you, all of a sudden realize a month's gone by, you haven't done it, and you're like, my enthusiasm's waned on that, right? So really walking out with an intentional action. And that's, again, I mentioned the school culture trainings before that we do regionally, and we do them for individual districts. They really are amazing. And that serve model, the E there is exit. And part of the exit is how do you wrap things in a class, in a webinar, in a professional development day, in a meaningful way that has action steps and aren't just like, okay, this was great, everybody have a good day, right? And so I love having that takeaway to really be able to say, I'm going to, even if it's just one of them, right? I'm going to implement this over the course of the next week or the next month or so on.
Yeah, it's a great reminder, Brian, of the importance of that intentional exit.
All right, so jumping into some things that just to make you guys aware of that are either upcoming or resources that you may or may not have access yet. So we now have 5 different versions of our back to school playbook. So, I know we're into back to school over a month for many people, in the Northeast here, we're in about week 3, 4, thereabouts, but that's still early in the school year, right? If you haven't accessed these are role specific now. So if you're a district administrator, you're a building administrator, you're a teacher at elementary level, secondary level, you're a school counselor, these are really, really powerful ways to say, how do we make implementation more easier for you? And what are some ways that you can really kick things off? So I think the link just got to these, we just got put in the chat there. So feel free to grab that. And that's something that, should be helpful, especially if there's any areas of your implementation that you're struggling with, or you don't feel like are going smoothly. And obviously reach out to us beyond just, accessing these if you have questions. All right, some upcoming events. So, folks in the room probably range from, having no experience and just checking out what CharacterStrong's about to folks who have almost all of our resources, right? So, if you have the elementary curriculum, but you're not using the secondary level or vice versa, you want to learn more about the others. If you haven't explored our student leadership curriculum or our tier 2 resources that were released this past year, we have these upcoming webinars over the course of the next about week to 2 weeks that are coming up, and feel free to jump on those, and you can see a little bit more about anything you may not know. All right, now I've plugged these a couple of times with the serve model because I think these are absolutely amazing. Our school culture trainings, Again, this is something that we do for districts specifically, but we also offer them regionally. And so you can see the upcoming ones there. I know that, two that I've been working on coordinating are in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Davenport, Iowa on the 17th and 14th of November, respectively. But they're all good depending on where you're at. This is a really deep dive into how do we build stronger school community? What kind of practical strategies can you use to address student behaviors, to address staff morale, and to really build a positive community, increase engagement with kids, and so on. And it's all focused on that SERVE model that I mentioned before: the start, engaged, respond, value, and exit. So if these dates match up for you, feel free to reach out. We do have the opportunity, depending on the size of your district and what sort of a team you want to have attend, to provide some scholarship opportunities for you. So feel free to reach out. You can reach out directly to me, Brian Whitley. It's brian@characterstrong.com, and happy to share information on how to attend one of these if there's one in your region. And there'll be more going forward if these aren't in your region. Every spring, every fall, we do a handful of these around the country. So would love to have you there.
Yeah, we also do them school and district based as well. I'm flying out to California today to do one tomorrow for a school. They are a really special whole day time together with your staff. So love that you're able to share about that.
Awesome. And then the MTSS certification. So, pretty self-explanatory, but this is a powerful thing. Dr. Clay Cook is a fantastic expert on MTSS. He's one of the, I would say, pioneers, leaders in the field, right? And he works here with us and is a huge impact on everything that we do. And so in January 29th and 30th in Redondo Beach, California, you can be MTSS certified.
Amazing.
And then I don't know if anyone in the room had joined us for last year's national conference. We do one of these each year in the Pacific Northwest, typically. And they are, it was an amazing, energizing an experience. And we'd encourage you to join us. You can learn more about it there, how to sign up. I think our signups are active now, right?
Yeah.
For it, it's in July of next year. So it's still a ways off if you're planning out your summer. But really cool event where we have, keynote speakers, we have breakout sessions, many of which are co-hosted by educators. And so you're hearing from peers and a chance to collaborate with folks using CharacterStrong or interested in learning more about CharacterStrong across the country. So it's just really cool. And I had my first one this past summer and was honestly blown away by, it was almost a magical kind of a vibe with the energy people bring.
Yeah, I always describe it to people as I've been to 3 now. I describe it as a combination between an educator conference and summer camp. It is one of those really powerful moments that will bond your group together. It will re-energize you for why you do this work. Just a really powerful time. So grab a few of your staff members and plan to join us in Tacoma. These always sell out, so don't wait too long if you're thinking about it. And that wraps it up for us. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. You were so much fun in the chat. Love to hear all the ideas that you had as well. I hope you learned just as much from each other as you did from us today. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, we really appreciate you all. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about anything that we talked about. Happy to help.
Yep. Thanks so much.
Have an amazing day, everyone.